So yeah, thank you so much, Rice. That is Sachi on the voice. We all know by now. Thank you, fellow panelists. I think we're gonna straight dive into the music and metrics. In today's time, data is somebody whom we just carry in our pockets. Literally, we live in the world of internet. There is so much consumption that is overall happening on the whole landscape of consumption, not just for music but for all formats of entertainment. Let's just break it down before I open this first question to the panelists. India right now, what we see at the moment in the influx of last 5 years, we are number 14th rank globally on the IFPI charts, second time in a row consistently, and but a year-on-year growth. The recording side of the business is close to $350 million, so we're close to 3,000 crore industry. On a larger comparative landscape, the OTT business is at 17,000 crore. So you can literally see the big sort of a value gap there and where it's still scratching surface. On the surface level of consumption, 600 to 650 million smartphone users, almost 850 internet users. We're going to touch 900 million by 2025 end. And on the consumption side, ever since the geo boom happened, obviously, which everybody knows in 2016, but today, if you think comparatively, each on an average Indian consumer of internet data, we're consuming 24 GB per month, which is humongous from the point of view that where Indian user was consuming 4.5 GB in 2018. Now that's a huge value statement. The only second to us is US and third is China, even if they are really neck deep into the whole monetization of it, where the value of the stream is more. What that being said is, even though India is still a price sensitive market, which probably is a big argument right now, we'll have it today. But that also means that on a surface level, we are absolutely ready for the world to show our numbers. Obviously, we have become the biggest and the humongous, most largest populous country with 1.4 billion people, beating China. A big round of applause for India for that. Uh, but that's still the starting. That is still the starting of breaking records, and we'll see how that goes in. So let me just continue on this and open this question right now. This is the concept of trigger cities. Has anybody heard the term trigger cities? Okay, great. A couple of years back, Chartmetric actually put out a really cool report that there are few trigger cities in the world. What does that mean? That means that there are certain markets which are emerging and developed or underdeveloped markets, but are showing great signs to become the next big market. And they were countries like Mexico, India, Philippines. They might not be the absolute top 10 markets, but they had the biggest potential to break your music. And now these are the countries that will really be an eye out, which is why when you see so many big acts coming into India and breaking those big numbers, because there's a reason why the consumption is high. Similarly, let's look at it a little more local level. There are trigger cities in India. And my fellow panelists, obviously, who are experts in their own field, we would like to understand where is that data in today's time coming from. So maybe Ravdeep can really open this right now. What are those really cool trigger cities to keep in mind? Obviously, apart from the metros that we are seeing things that have started coming in on a streaming level.
Okay, so I'll since I run a music licensing platform rather than which is more towards sync licensing rather than streaming numbers. Uh, I would say that from what we've generally seen with the kind of artists that we've been working with on our platform, we do see that regional has played like a huge amount of role, and I can see that a lot of my very close the artists that I very closely work with being popular in Bhubaneswar, Orissa, all of these places where probably Hindi might not be like the language which is the first language altogether. Coming to the perspective of licensing, since I know for a fact that that's something which I generally look at more on a day-to-day basis, I think we were still in that phase right now where even tier one has not come out as a trigger city, to be very honest, because it still is a very big challenge of people being convinced about the fact that music licensing has to be a crucial part of what they are generally doing. So I still do, I would open it up to everyone else, since I know that they work on a streaming sort of basis on a day-to-day sort of scenario. But music licensing wise, I would still say that we have like a little bit of time to go where we can start seeing that particular thing bleeding into tier 2, tier 3, and we start making ads or probably brand films or anything which is with regional music rather than with music that is actually popular. So yeah.
So, in your opinion, do you feel like there's enough potential still coming in from the tier ones that are
Oh, for sure. Like we've as compared to when we started off in 2023 and to now that we see 2025, we had phases where we could always see that nothing's going to happen for this 1 month or 2 months, right? But 2024, the last 6 months of 2024 and the how 2025 started with Jan, I think it was a very, very big difference from when we started to now. People are waking up to the fact that yes, music licensing is a very big sort of a thing that they can use for their particular sort of brand films. Because what really happens is that if you put that particular piece of music in a good brand film or an ad which comes out, there is a domino effect that happens on streaming too, which we've seen with Pratik Kuhar's Kasoor, which was featured in the movie Dhamaka. As soon as that came out, there was an acoustic version of that. When it came out, his streaming numbers just went double for even what he had done with the original version. So yes, I do 100% agree that people are coming towards that from tier 1. Tier 2, tier 3, probably we might have to wait a little while to see.
got it? And that's a great segue with that you mentioned Pratik Kuwad. So I'd move to Sujal, who obviously houses some of the biggest talents in the country. How do you see those kind of streams coming in? Because everybody from a Diljit or a King have been touring as well. Do you see that change in streaming pattern coming in from a different sort of the tier 2 or 3 model?
Yes, definitely. So just to add and probably start here is that when you say trigger city right now in India is only Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore. In beyond which we do not see anything where it's being consumed or it's being really have a listenership around the music, complete music ecosystem, right? Uh, but having said that, Pan India is a universe for all the artists to build their fan. And in order to do so, this tier 2, tier 3 city has been picking it up. Now, in our experience, and it's been everybody would have seen it. Like, for an example, Darjeet has done in the month of March a one city tour. And then when he came back and he did all the non-metro city tour, right? And we have seen the numbers, streaming numbers increasing from that particular smaller city, what we have done it. Daljit has keep increasing show one by one and going to those Lucknow, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Calcutta. And that's where the even fans and listenerships are increasing it, right? So that's not only from the artist perspective. Even if you look at like the festival, uh, I don't mind seeing his name like say Bloomberg, K-pop, Zomalang. They are not coming and doing the shows in a metro service. They are going in tier 2, tier 3, and there's a reason for it, right? So this penetration has started, and it's helping the artist also to increase the fan and the listenership. So it's we are there for that particular uh, effect.
And do you have certain like a benchmark or a metrics to track these kind of things? That do you sit it with the artist? Obviously, they have their own dashboards, but is there a invested time that goes behind it?
So data is the king today, right? I mean, we all know that, and we all have numerous way to get the data in order to understand those things. So yes, we do have certain dashboard where you can see those results coming in, and and as a major labor, we always measure the ROI on everything. So yeah, we do have that.
ROI at the end, absolutely. It has to be a business sense for sure. Agreed. Mandeep, uh, just for context, Mandeep and the team at Mashup, they have been at it really at a grassroots level of touching some of the most aspiring musicians that I know in the last couple of years. So big ups to you for that. How has you seen the shift, right? Because you've always worked with some of the most deeper pockets of the country, right? How has that shaped up now?
For us, I think it's been a privilege to work across, I think, as many cities. For me, particularly, I'm pretty concise wise. Uh, the maximum amount of applicants that we've received till date has been Indore. The second is Dehradun. The third is Jaipur. The fourth is Assam. And the fifth is pretty amazing to a point, that's Delhi and Mumbai. But if you look at the applicants to the conversion, our conversions happen majority through Delhi and Mumbai. And the reason precisely for this is the approach towards learning. So when you look at
That is
Mumbai,
so interesting. Yeah. Why would you say that? Like it's all coming in from those cities first, and
I think we probably go around the need of supply and demand in music industry. See, we cannot go around selling something that is not even people are not aware of. Music business, something, when some an artist starts in Dehradun, right? Music business is something that's very relatable to a later part of the life. But when you look at the optics through an artist from Delhi or Mumbai, they would be far more, familiarized with the concepts of learning, that they need to own it and do that. Hence, the conversion becomes easier at the scale of Delhi and Mumbai. But you would be amazed to look at the applicants from these cities. The reasons for major applicants is because people have that accessibility towards distribution now. It's easier to go around. People can start it from the studio. That's how easy it is. Second step, the community play really comes into action. The scene in Dehradun, for in terms of hip hop, is amazing. It's popping at the point. Only for the pinch part because it's very, very community driven. But yes, when people actually, if you ask me, what is the conversion, कितने लोग invest करते हैं अपने music business learning में, there are only a handful. But if I have to speak for every artist in this room, for everybody, guys, I think music business is everything at this point. Before numbers and after numbers, everything has to make sense.
hold that thought. We'll definitely want to know how you're getting into the awareness side of it. Megha, again, somebody you have been in a big education space here, right? How is that age group, or how do you define that age group that comes into your institution, and do you see there is a pattern that, or does it cater to a pan India or like a certain belt of the country? Like how young can people start today? Because obviously we didn't have an idea or a institution like that. Oh, we'll go and let's study music business, which was never concept. But yeah, please, would love to know.
So it's been interesting to hear all three here, and our experience has been a little different. When we started in 2011, uh, as you rightly said, music education was a niche, and I think still is a niche space, especially in the space that we are, because the programs that we offer are full time programs, and somebody deciding to invest themselves in studying a craft in an industry which they don't know how they're going to be stable and secure, those two words that often come up, is always a uphill task of trying to do that. However, we have seen I would say a broad shift on two fronts. If I can broadly call it a pre-COVID, post-COVID era. When so between 2011, or let's say between 2014 to 2020, majority of the students who would come to study uh, would probably be those who have had some form of bachelor's or some form of graduation done, and then coming in to do some kind of music education full time, maybe because that was how socially maybe their family would approve of it, and how would they do it. And at that point of time, most of the students that were coming to us were primarily from metro cities. Cut to now, where over the period we have also had a lot of developments at our end, be it our international partnerships or the kind of industry, support we've got, and the kind of partnerships we have done in the industry front and the academic front. Now there's a broad difference where I would say about 80% of the student population that's studying the full-time program are straight coming after high school. So that's been a very big change for us to see in the last 4 to 5 years, which also gives us a lot of hope in terms of, okay, uh, the parents, their support system, their guardians, the students themselves. Students always have been at the forefront of making these kind of choices, but the people who want to support them financially and otherwise are also okay for them to take on these kind of roles. I think that's also coming from the places of how they're seeing the industry is also opening up to not just being too few, but also opening up from varied spaces. Secondly, geographically spread, if you ask me, we are now seeing people coming from varied cities. I mean, we continue to have students from Jaipur, Udaipur, Kanpur, Lucknow, Northeast Shillong. We have people from Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kochi, Varanasi. So we've had spread of people coming in from all these spaces. I think where it also comes in from is that the space that we are catering to is building and owning your craft. So where you're starting right now is what we focus on is build your craft, get into the business side of things and do that. So I think more and more people are willing to now invest in that and come that, and it's been a sustain. In fact, right now also some of our students who are volunteering today, couple of them, they're from Jaipur, Kanpur, and everyone who's sitting here and in the metro, sitting in a conference like this and doing this, and have been with us for a while. So I feel
Such a proud moment.
that's been a full circle moment for us in that way, and that's good because that way you are coming into the metro, but you're coming from the cities where you have had this exposure and you're willing to make that kind of shift for yourself.
And if I'm just also very curious to ask that with this set of really mixed audiences across the country, what is the male to female ratio that goes by? Like, I think it's the need of the hour. We would love to understand how many of those aspiring musicians have a good balance of male to female.
That's a good question. Although that's never been a criteria for us to select, it's always the merit. But it's good to see the ratio being very healthy. It's not just in the student community, but it's also in our faculty community and our team. And we are very, very proud of it at our campus. While the ratio is very healthy, one thing I would still say is that most of the people, most of the females who are coming in, or people who may identify as non-binary, most of them are still in voice. Them picking up instrument is still something that I'm not seeing that much, or them entering into um, the production space also. That's growing, but I would still say even in the music production space, I'm still seeing more male, and even in the instrument space, I still see more males in being there. I do
On the
feel that
production side and
yes, I do feel that's still a place that needs to have that more kind of an openness happening, and maybe those and that's where some of the artists who are now breaking those barriers become those kind of role models that people can hope to become something like that. So I'm hoping that will also change with time.
lovely. Mandeep, for you, you want to touch upon that a bit?
I think I'll have a very kind of average answer to this because our reach out is pretty manual at this point. So when we do that, there is a certain, if you ask me, for example, if you're choosing 10 artists for one cohort, ideally give or take, the ratio is around 7 boys and 3 girls. It also depends on that kind of the need at that point. But I think we would love to develop something like a healthy ratio like GMI for sure.
And that's a great start, right? Like 30% of what you're aiming for. Um, let's talk very quickly about the initiatives right now, right? Like if you are seeing that kind of a trend across the country, and this question is both for Megha and Mandeep, what is it that you would do, right? To so that you can further go into the, like how you said, Northeast for you, right? Like you see Shillong as a great one. You see a lot of Dehradun and Lucknow and Indore as well. What are those initiatives that are happening?
So at GMI, what we started to do, and something that we've been doing, we're working on two fronts. See, we began with focusing on what we are offering, and that has always been the core to at GMI at the programs. But the two other aspects that we are focusing on is one, as I said, because the demographic is coming younger and younger, we have started to work a lot with the high school community, because we're also seeing a shift of way. High schools have started looking at music or performing arts and other themes of art as not just your zero period classes, but they're actually getting being tailored and being educated and being created in a format where they would like to get their students to follow that. So and now a lot of schools, and most of the schools, have started having career counseling divisions in their schools, and they're hosting a lot of fests and pairs. So in the last 1 year, and in fact couple of years, with last 6 months having been a lot more robust action on that front, we've been starting to work a lot with the school community, the educators, the career counselors, to just create awareness about the aspect that music education is a thing. Music industry has avenues. It is not just about a performer standing on the stage and that's about it, because the biggest fear that parents always have is मेरा बच्चा सिर्फ अगर स्टेज पे खड़ा होगा उसके बाद क्या करेगा, वो कितना टाइम की लाइफ स्पैन है. It's like a cricketer having, okay, what is my lifespan out of this and what am I going to do beyond that. But then to educate them, there's so many avenues of careers that are open for a musician or an artist or a producer or what have you. That's the kind of awareness building that we're doing on that front. And then of course, on the other end is creating the other end of the spectrum, which is creating our partnerships with the industry and having them also come on board to say that, okay, people who are coming out of this, have them get involved in some internships, in some jobs, and it can be on any plethora. It could be from distributor to a studio, to someone who is doing consulting, to someone who is writing music for some kind of product or a game. Getting them that kind of a foot in the door, so that they can also explore those spaces and see, okay, there's an end-to-end work that's happening on that front, and so that they can also see it's not just about making that difficult choice of, okay, how am I going to earn my money after that, but I can also find various means to do some kind of things during the day and in the night, because at the end of the day, most of them artists or musicians that you see today are creative entrepreneurs. None of them have only one single stream of their revenue, and that is something which is great because it allows you to wear multiple hats, and that's what you need to create, that kind of ecosystem. So that's the kind of things that we have been focusing.
I think that's very, very cool, because I feel like in today's time there's going to be all of the students wearing multiple hats at once, right? So you'll have to cater to an audience like that to give them various avenues of growth in a way. Mandeep, for you?
I think pretty similar vision like how Megha mentioned, like the schools have really opened the avenues now. But our approach has been really, really tech oriented. We somehow are building NIA, that means New Horizon Learning. It's going to be India's first AI tutor, which will be trained for Indian high school students to teach them beyond the singing and the guitar thing. We have never felt the idea of that the music industry is just for the person playing the guitar or maybe singing on mic. I think it goes way beyond that. And I think it's time for the Indian education system to take hold of it. And I think with tech, it's easily scalable, maintainable, and to a point, I think it creates a great, great impact. So, yes, over to it.
Congratulations on Nia. And please, round of applause. I think Kulke Tali Maro, if you really want to. Uh, that is so important, because I feel like as somebody who's really doing the high school, the only exposure that they have is their music teacher, who's sitting there with a harmonium and max 2, 3 other instruments. But I think it all starts at a grassroots level when you start providing these kind of things. Okay, back to some more business, and I'll put Sujal and Ravdeep on spot now. Uh, let's break this down from an artist's lens, right? Let's throw a little more light on audio versus music videos in today's time. And I have some data to back here from the recent times. This is a global report where the top 40 tracks last year, the top 40 stream tracks from Spotify last year, out of that, 35 of them had music videos accompanied. But on an average, the views that they achieved were close to 370 to 400 million views as the highest, sort of, in a way. The streams that they achieved, the top 40 tracks, a billion plus. India has always been cliched in a way where India watches music and hame visuals chahiye, we need something to see, we really need something to feel what the sound is. Does that even really matter at the moment? Is the question. So, Sujal, just opening this card for you, how important or relevant are music videos in today's time?
It's one of my favorite questions, which I constantly debate, discuss, argue, because I'm the guy who looks at the PNL, right? So, I mean, if I have to say today and little open-ended everybody, zaruri hai kya? That's the only medium to convey your story. I would say not really. Uh, that's a great ethos for the artist to convey the story and kind of agree for it. Yes, there can be backed by a video, all the lyrics and the emotions around the track. But in my recent experience, I can tell you that one of our artists, Darshan Rawal, right, his track called Maiye Jeena Sona, which was peaked at number 2 on Spotify Top India. And it is still trending on Spotify as well as on the IG, right, on the reels and everything. And there is no video behind it. And he is the number one artist in that indie pop and indie music, right? And video is not necessary. Uh, that's something I would say my 2 cents on it. That's
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's a great case study. I think similar to what you've experienced, even for us in the very, very recent time, we've just dropped the soundtrack 2 months back for Mismatch for Netflix. And we have the big. Thank you so much. That was our first ever bet. And the top song, Ishq Hai, which probably everybody would have heard. And thank you for the love. Uh, it's so weirdly that the music video is at 39 million on YouTube. The audio on Spotify itself is at 89 million. So you see the big sort of a value gap and a disparity on audio versus video. And we been like as a traditional way of thinking, we always tried and said, as like you said in your PNS, there's always like a big chunk that goes into music videos all the time. We feel like, why is that even needed on it? And probably examples like these are really setting the bars. Ravdeep, probably you would. I think you have some great case studies as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we started something last year called Fair Play's Finest, which is basically kind of like an artist development thing for artists that we see as breakthrough from Fair Play, from the music licensing platform. My sample size is considerably low as compared to a Warner, probably, but let me give you another sort of a side to things also. I have this artist that I work very closely with called Anurag Mishra, and he's very dedicated to his particular genre. He likes to take out albums at one point of time. Like he would only work on albums, and every sort of music that goes out into these albums, he wants to put a music video out with it. Whether it be a music video that he's shot in his living room, whether it be a music video that he shot at the beach, but he'll still put out something which is more on what he wants to do, what his artistic vision is. So now he has, I would say that he has somewhere around uh that time when this video he dropped, which I'm about to talk about, he had somewhere around 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is considerably fine. Like it's okay, it's a good starting point. We dropped a video for his track called Wafaएं, where we actually got a Bollywood actor also involved in it, one of his friends only who came in. And the day that we dropped it, probably 2 weeks after that, it was at 500K views organically. So like there was no way that we had put like any amount of money behind it. But the whole point is that I do agree that it's a very big difference from a 39 million or a 40 million. But I would say that yes, music videos might just work, provided they are dropped with an intention behind it. If it actually sits very well with the artistic vision that you have, and this is for independent artists primarily, because we know for a fact that bigger labels might actually have like a budget that goes with music videos, but independent artists are always doing this from their particular pocket, and it just gets a little bit taxing by the end of it. So if it actually serves the creative vision pretty well, and you think that it's kind of like an asset that actually works with you to probably help you with streaming or help you get composition gigs or help you get anything else, then yes, 110% it might just work out. But I do agree with the fact that what he said, "Zaruri hai kya?" is a question that everyone should ask before they actually take that step, because it is something where you have to agree that people's attention spans have gone down considerably. We know for a fact that making music videos is expensive. So yes, just ask yourself that question. But 110%, if it's done well, if it's done with intention, it can work out for you, for sure.
Just to add to that, right? Like, and this is very recent from my conversations at the mentorship zone. I was having a couple of them. I had a conversation, and then they were asking, "Yaar, kitna paisa dalu music video mein?" Right? It's so subjective, and like how Sujal said, "Zaruri hai kya?" But then I also ask, "Aapko kitna dalna hai?" You're like, "Yeah, okay, 10,000. That's it." Then don't go about that. In today's time, like I don't think there is a definition of how much you want to put it, but it's absolutely important to just be there on all the platforms. So as much as I would say that yes, it's important, not important, but it is important for you to have your asset, which is also on YouTube. And that could be just an static artwork. Like for Darshan, I think it was pretty much that, which is still raking in your views in that, right? And it is still an asset. So yes, to answer the question, absolutely important. Let's try and break it down more into it. My second favorite question to ask again for Sujal and Ravdeep: how important are playlist covers?
Why word playlist? The the question should have been or could have been from the artist is that how can I make it a point that my music reaches everywhere? How it's enabled on all the platform that it's easy to discover the particular music, right? So today the playlist is beneficial for the artist. Yes, I will not deny the fact that. But at the end of the day, your music should stand up to that playlist requirement. Otherwise, if you put in the playlist over a period of time, if people will not like it, it's going to drop away. It's not going to continue to be on that playlist, right? So the artist should understand, or maybe where I come from my experience is that the discovery of music is very much the crucial rather than the playlist. That's something I can add, right? I mean, we as a Warner will have a lot of international, very popular artists. We have Indian artists. We have seen that things around it, right? Playlist is a subset of it. It's not the poor success story for it for any artist.
That's very true. And I would have a different side to it, maybe from Mandeep, right? Because you also have a lot of artists who release music and are constantly noticing the playlist, right? So how do you address that?
I think for the artists that I probably worked with, I think the relation and the need is adorable. That's for sure. I think everybody feels somehow self entitled to attain to get down to an editorial. For us, that's a great benchmark of discoverability. But I think whenever we are doing this cohort, my word of advice to everybody who wants to get featured in editorial is very, very clear. It might 100% get you as much as listeners and numbers over it, but it would be very difficult for you to get those meaningful, relations post that. It's very, very difficult. Now the narratives have become rather difficult rather than the distribution today in today's date. I've had a lot of artists whose songs have, crossed down a lack of streams, but somehow the streams are not getting correlated to their, say, about community driven facts. So yes, I think it is important for discoverability, but I don't think so that's the only benchmark that everybody should be looking up to. Yeah.
True. Rasdeep, you want to add anything?
100%. We love playlist covers for sure. 110%. I would never deny that because, but I would also give you another side to it. It doesn't really affect streams at all, to be very honest. Because now what has happened is that Spotify in general has, if you're not subscribed to premium, your playlist, whenever you play them, they play in a shuffled manner. They don't play in the manner that it's been set. So it's also on probability that your song is going to get played or not. But we love it only because of the fact that it just is another asset that can help with discovery, can help with the peers understanding that yes, this person's doing well. I think it's more of a vanity metric than anything else right now.
And you had some really cool data points on the
Oh yeah,
number of songs, which
I think yeah.
would love
Now
you to do.
I think this is a good sort of a point of time where I can actually just throw those because I really want to tie it to why a music video or probably why a playlist would be important. Say, so I just dropped a video very recently about this. There was this Luminate report that had come out very recently, and according to that, 202 million tracks are on DSPs as of 2024. So all your Deezers and Spotify's and Apple Music. So 202 million tracks exist right now. Out of that, 175 million out of those tracks have not crossed the 1,000 minimum plays threshold for Spotify. Spotify had taken out a rule last year that if you do not cross 1,000 plays over a 12-month period, you will not be eligible for the royalty pool. So 175 million tracks are out of that pool.
In fact, a lot of them are now being taken down as well.
Exactly.
If
because
it's just been there.
if it's just being there. 93.2 million out of those 202 million have not been even played more than 10 times. And 50 million of those, of the 202 million, have been played not even once. So I 110% do agree that you have to question that if playlists are important for you or music videos are important for you, but how do you make your music stand out in today's scenario when you're actually competing with 150,000 more songs that get uploaded on DSPs every single day? So you have to have an edge somewhere or the other, whether it be your community, exactly like what Mandeep had said. Community driven initiatives which show up in your streaming are way more important because that's how you are creating longevity rather than you're just doing a one off sort of boost that you get in your streams, which might just happen from one playlist, which might just happen from one particular instance that works for you. But if you're competing with those 150,000 more songs, and probably let's just say 70% of them are not of good quality as well, but you're still competing with a lot of them. So you have to figure out that what works for you. Maybe if a playlist and a music video helps you stand out from the crowd, go for it. Do it, because you have to stand out somewhere or the other. These are really, really like alarming stats when I read them, and I really wanted to just put it out. It is very scary. And just one last thing which I would say is that this is going to bloat up even more with AI generated music coming into the picture.
I'm coming to AI.
Yes, so I know.
Just to add to that, in fact, Spotify themselves say that when you're looking onto your dashboard, and how many artists in the room here, by the way? Can they raise their hands? Yeah, this is so good. Okay, good one, Rice. If you have access to your dashboard, you will instantly see the proportion of where your streams are coming in from. And anything more than 15% of editorial is alarming, by the way. That means you are being very heavily bankable on that one inventory. And tomorrow, Kalutke, if it goes out, that's a straight dip on your streams. So I would strongly say that to keep an eye out on that. Instead, what's really, really commendable is if you try and lock in your stats and see what is the average stream per user. That's also another metric you see. Anything more than 2 to 3 is a good repeatability for a track. So that really helps in making sure that your track is being heard more by the same person. AI, how can you not talk about it when it's metrics? Is AI going to be, the best friend, or is it a time where we have to start, be alarmed and see even the labels today? Like, I think the recent report is Sony and T Series and Saregama knocking the lawsuits for OpenAI, which is also backed by Microsoft, is in itself a trend to see where what will happen next, right? So will we see big artists using AI, or whether we will see AI generated music? Just opening the floor here. Maybe Sujal?
Uh, we are still not quite there for that in terms of, addressing the issue of the AI. There has been a lot of fear around it. There has been a lot of legal cases around it. And we have been reading the reports, we have been seeing it. Uh, but in my personal opinion, it is still far away for us. It's still a issue which has to be addressed in a way that every artist understands what they are going to gain out of it, what they are going to lose out of it. It is still an open forum, it's open discussion around it. So those are my 2 cents.
Got it. Ravdeep?
You guys have one more hour to sit if I have to talk about AI. But
The day four is with Ravdeep. It's symbolic.
But I do agree with Sujal on one thing, that there is a lot of fear mongering. There's a lot of pandering to the fact that, oh, AI is going to just take away things. See, I always say one thing: if AI somehow or the other makes the process of you creating music easier, I'm not talking about AI generated music. I'm talking about you using AI to create instruments that you probably might not be accessible to you, or probably you're using it for maybe say some other help possible. Yes, I do 100% agree that you have to work in hand, because there's no other way to it. We've seen it happen with big corporates, analysts, all of that research is happening through AI now. I think it will come into the creative fields also. On the other end, I think everyone knows my views on AI generated music. It's something which I stay like 500 miles away from. It's not going to be a problem at the beginning, yes, at right now, but I know for a fact that a lot of responsibility is falling on distributors also, to make sure whatever they're putting out there on the DSPs, on Spotify, Apple Music, that it's not something which is AI generated, and it's something which is coming from a genuine source. So yeah, I think that everyone should be at least aware of the fact that what's happening in that world. Maybe it might not be something which affects you right now, but you should always read up more about it every single day. It is changing very quickly.
Preparing for the future. Final thoughts, Megha and Mandeep, on this same topic, because obviously you are seeing where the future is in terms of the students, right? So do you see that as a big part of conversation in today's time?
I think 100% use AI. Use it as your creative intern. Don't feel obliged to a point that you should not be used. Just don't make music. That's a very subjective. I'll clear you on that. But AI is here to stay, guys. Let's just not. I'm not gonna be the other person who's gonna say no. We can of course escape. AI is gonna here to stay. We're looking at a revolution. People who have adapted to a revolution are the one who has actually strived success. So I think use it at every possible creation phase of yours. For example, as minimum as user like making an album art, that's doable. You want to write your editorial, chat GPT, do that. You want to automate marketing, use Symphony.ai. There are a lot of tools out there. Use AI as minimum in terms of your, creation, but maximum on reach outs to reaching out to as many people. I think use it, guys. Yeah.
Well said. Megha?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think as humans, our creative potential is what has led us to create AI. So let's not forget that. Hone your craft is what I would always focus on. If you are very strong with what your creativity is, don't be afraid of technology. I think from the time when we have been born, technology has been evolving and AI is a new form of it. So, of course, it's going to take a shape where we have to make it as part of our life. Um, Thinking of it as a shortcut may only be short term, as I feel. Um Use it, keep it to your advantage, make well use of it, but I don't think there's a need to be felt replaced by, because if you're feeling it might replace you, then you probably need to dig deeper to look at what your creativity and your honing your craft is all about. So focus on that, focus on using it to your advantage, as Mandeep said, and I think that should be fine. I think there will be an equilibrium that will form. Every time a new thing comes up, there's always a disruption. There are always extremes that come around, but always we find a new balance or a new normal, and I think that will come around. So it's good to have these conversations. It's good to see some extremes happening, because when extremes happen is when you find a new balance. So it's good to see some people using it to know what not to do with it. Sometimes it's very important to have those things also happening, so that you know, okay, what should be done with it. So it's okay, it's good to see all these things happening. It's I think healthy.
I absolutely agree. I think it's a good balance, is the word that you used. So really making it like a creative assistant, like Mandeep said, but not making AI the best friend, as Ravdeep said. Not letting AI enter so much in the lives as well. Our time's up, guys. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful, and